Welcome to Sola Church Online.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alan Rigg. This is my wife, Miranda Landers. Together, we are launching a life-giving church in Santa Monica, California on January 23rd, 2022, just several short months from now.
And during the shutdown, we went ahead and launched online, digital church on Sundays and virtual small groups during the week. So this is it, you're here.
So glad you guys have joined us, and whether you're watching on the Church Online platform or Facebook or YouTube, we hope that you will actively participate in this service. You can do that by liking and commenting and sharing.
Are you ready for another frequently asked question?
Sure, fire away.
Okay, so lots of people want to know, when we talk about the launch team, what exactly does that mean? What does it mean to be a part of the launch team?
Yeah, sure. So launch team members are people who not only plan to attend when we open in January, but they want to be part of the team that makes that happen. So launch team members attend startup parties. They invite family members and friends to attend with them. Launch team members also want to have a role on Sunday mornings. So when we open in January, you'll see launch team members who will serve as greeters, as ushers. who will work with children, who will do hospitality, who will set up, who will tear down, who will run sound, who will lead worship, all of those things, so many roles, so many ways to participate. So we're just so grateful for those people that, they don't just want to come and observe. They want to come, they want to be hands-on, they want to participate in making this happen.
So if somebody watching today wanted to be a launch team member, how would they do that?
There's actually a lot of ways that you could do that. You could attend the startup party tomorrow night. We'll talk more about that later, and join at the startup party. You could also tell us at a coffee meetup or in a Zoom call that you'd like to join the launch team. You can also join on our website, solachurch.life, or simply send us a message on Sola Church social media or our email address. So yeah, any of those ways.
And we love our team.
Yeah, we
and
do.
You belong on our team.
That's right.
Let's worship. Father, we come before you this morning. We stand on your promises. Great is your faithfulness. Father, we give you all the glory. We worship you today. Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won. For you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me yet. Promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. Never fail me yet. You never fail me yet. picked up all my pieces, put me back together. You are the defender of my heart. When I thought I lost me, you knew where I left me. You reintroduced me to your love. You picked up all my pieces, put me back together. You are the defender of my heart. And when I thought I lost me, you knew where I left me. You reintroduced me to your love. You picked up all my pieces, put me back together. You are the defender of my Hallelujah, save me, so much better your way. And all I did was praise. All I need to do is worship. Lord, I will just bow down. No, I'm just gonna stay still.
This is that time in our service when we worship with our giving, and there are several easy ways to make a tax-deductible donation.
You can give online. You should see a link in your chat feed, or you can go to our website at solachurch.life and click Give.
You can give by text. Simply text GIVE SOLA, one word, no space, to 424-999-9767.
You can give on PayPal. The address for that is give@solachurch.life.
Yes, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Really, really appreciate you.
And our next startup party is tomorrow,
Yeah.
September 27th at 7 p.m. at the Alt Studio here in Santa Monica. It's got free street parking and you enter through open bay doors, so it's super easy access.
And you know, these parties are for launch team members, but also for new people wanting to learn more about our vision for Sola Church and for our city. It's basically a 60-minute interest social. You know, the first half is time to meet and mingle with us and our team. And then in the second half, there's a brief presentation from us and a giveaway.
And it's super laid back, and of course, children are welcome. To RSVP, you go to solachurch.life and click Attend a Startup Party.
And also, there are other options on that page. Like if you would rather, you can schedule a coffee meetup with us or even a Zoom call. So whatever works best for you, but for sure, let's connect ASAP.
So we did something last week that we're going to finish today.
Yeah, that's right. The 1-year anniversary of our online launch is a week away. It's next weekend. And so we're going to wait until next Sunday, October 3rd, to start our new series.
And again, we thought this week we would give you a taste of Alan's teaching in a live environment.
Yeah, so some of you probably have heard me speak on this text before, Joshua 2, and may have even seen this video. But it's my message, Living Heroically, which was filmed live at Calvary Church in Aurora, Colorado in 2018.
And we got the first half last week, and we'll get the second half today. So let's get started.
We're going to let go of the past. We're going to let go of past guilt and hurt. And number 2, we're going to face our fears. Let's pick up the pace, verse 2. It says, "It was told the king of Jericho, saying, Behold, men have come here tonight from the children of Israel to search out the country. So the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search out all the country. Then the woman took the 2 men and hid them. So she said, yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. And it happened as the gate was being shut when it was dark, that the men went out. Where the men went, I do not know. Pursue them quickly, for you may overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order on the roof. Then the men pursued them by the road to the Jordan to the fords, and as soon as those who pursued them had gone out, they shut the gate. So the spies had been followed, they'd been found out. One way or another, it had come to this. Could Rahab live heroically? Well, not unless she faced her fears. Fear is such a universal experience. Have you guys ever seen that website, phobialist.com? You got to check it out. When you get home, Google phobialist.com. They have cataloged over 500 phobias. It's like you're scared of stuff you hadn't even thought of yet. It's crazy. Anybody here afraid of heights? Yeah, see, you're not even raising your hand all the way up over your head because that would be like too far off the ground. Anybody have like an unnatural fear of needles? Like nobody likes to get a shot or a blood draw, but for you, that's a really bad day. What about like an unnatural fear of spiders? Like for you, that's the real home invasion. And who's afraid to raise their hand in public? Okay, you pass. I see several hands. I think there's coffee somewhere. You guys should go fellowship. Rest of us have more work to do. Fear is so powerful, so powerful. Like, have you ever been so scared that you did something you wouldn't normally do? I've totally done that. Or have you ever been so scared that you didn't do something you normally would do? I've totally done that too. That's how crazy powerful fear is. And maybe that's why the most common command in the Bible is, do not be afraid. Say it with me, do not be afraid. Now, we're going to come back to that verse in just a little while. But isn't that amazing? Of all the do's and don'ts in the Bible, that's the one that appears the most frequently? That's definitely something for us to know and to ponder. But before we come back to that thought, I've been creating this physical timeline, right? I've been talking about guilt and hurt like it's over here in our past. And now we're talking about fear, which we usually think of as being over here in our future, right? We're afraid this is going to happen. We're afraid that's not going to happen. Don't make the mistake of thinking that these things are disconnected. They're not. They're totally connected. You know what I'm learning? I'm learning that in life, if I don't make peace with the past, I will almost always fear the future. And you know, Rahab, she had every reason to be afraid. She was about to risk her life hiding the spies and lying for them. Which raises an ethical question, doesn't it? Like lying? What's up with that? Is that okay? Is that not okay? Would you be interested in my take on that? Just real quick, and then we'll keep moving. I'll throw this out there. I would compare what Rahab did to what people living in Europe during World War II did. People who took Jews into their homes and hid them. And then, you know, when Nazi soldiers came pounding on the door demanding to know whether there were Jews present, they lied. They said no. They chose life-saving over truth-telling when it wasn't possible to do both. To put it another way, two moral absolutes came into unavoidable conflict, and they chose the greater good, I believe, without guilt. That's how I feel about what they did. That's how I feel about what Rahab did. This is what Norm Geisler calls graded absolutism. You can Google it or read more about it. We can disagree about this and be friends, but at least I've given you something to argue about over lunch, right? So, job done. Mission accomplished. If Rahab had played it safe, think of the regret that she would have had. Have you ever played it safe only to regret it later? Of course you have. What about that time you struck out looking? And all these years later, you're still like, oh, if only I'd taken a cut at that pitch. What about that time you knew the answer, but you could not get your voice to come out of your throat? Or that time that you wanted to volunteer, but you couldn't get your hand up over your head? Or that time that you couldn't decide about the house or the car and somebody else got it? Or that other time? You guys know the one. You were so close to telling someone how you felt about them. But you chickened out. And then maybe you never had another chance. Rahab, she could have played it safe. She could have refused to hide the spies, to lie for them. Instead, she risked the life that she had, the only life she knew, for the life that she wanted. To live heroically, you must always risk your life as it is. And that's crazy scary, which is why we're talking about facing our fears. I can imagine the pushback. You're like, well, Alan, this sounds like really risky stuff here. Do I look like a risk taker to you? Is that what you're thinking? Are you one of the many people who would describe yourself as having a low risk tolerance or maybe no risk tolerance at all? I'm totally not buying it. I was in a bookstore not long ago. You guys remember those? They had shelves, these things with pages. They were really cool. I liked them a lot. I took this book off the shelf and I looked at the title. The title was The 100 Most Dangerous Things in Everyday Life and What to Do About Them. Do not read that book. Oh man, that book wrecked my mind. Like, I had no idea that every year in the United States, more people are killed by teddy bears than by grizzly bears. Who knew? Like a button can come off, you can have a choking incident. Did you know that every year in the United States, 40,000 people are injured by their television set? I have to admit, more than once, we've been watching AFV in our house, America's Funniest Videos, seen a couple of kids roughhousing, they're rolling across the room, they roll into a piece of furniture that starts to wobble, the TV tumbles off, you can have a crushing injury. Against my better judgment, I'm going to give you one more example. You ready for this? Did you know that every year in the United States, 60,000 people are injured using the toilet? Right? So don't tell me you're not a risk taker. Unless you're prepared to hold it. Forever. The question is not whether to risk. We take risks all the time. The question is what to risk. So, will you risk the life that you have for the life that you want, the life that God wants for you? Or are you going to risk the life that you want, that life that God wants for you, to hold on to the life that you have? The idea is to face your fears. Like, what would you do tomorrow if you weren't afraid? Would you tell someone that you're being abused at home? Would you tell someone that you've lost your sobriety and that you think you're ready to go back to rehab? Would you quit that job that's left you feeling real uneasy about your ethics for the longest time? Would you start a new ministry? Would you begin to write that book? You know, like, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Would you tell that boyfriend or that girlfriend that you don't think it's going to work out? What would you do if you're not afraid? Would you take that giant step of faith and make a first-time commitment to Christ? What would you do if you weren't afraid? We're about to read verses like verse 9 where Rahab uses fear words and verse 11 where Rahab uses fear phrases. And it's the craziest thing because by the time you get to the New Testament, it says nothing about Rahab's fear and everything about her faith. This just destroys what we think we know about heroes. We think heroes feel no fear, but Rahab was scared out of her mind. So what's up with that? It must not be that heroes feel no fear. It must be that they feel fear, but refuse to be controlled by it. Think of it. Now remember, the most common command in the Bible, do not be afraid. One more time together, do not be afraid, which teaches us, among other things, that there is a way of being where though we feel fear like everyone else with a pulse, we refuse to be controlled by it. Imagine for you a life not continually controlled by fear. Imagine thoughts not continually fueled by fear. Imagine future plans not continually formed in fear. To live heroically, we let go of the past, we face our fears, and finally, we believe. All right, we're really going to start moving now. You ready to read a bunch of verses? Okay, here we go. Verse 8. Now before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites who were on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage in anyone because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. Now therefore I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you also will show kindness to my father's house, and give me a true token, and spare my father, mother, brothers, sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. Excuse me. Now we've got some more verses to read. But first, if you'll let your eyes fall on verse 11. In verse 11, she says some amazing things. She speaks there of one God, singular. Notice also that she speaks of a personal God. So sorry, that last drink of water went down the wrong pipe. We can fix it. We have the technology. All right, getting all choked up. The message isn't even over, and I'm all choked up. What she said, verse 11, one God, singular, personal God. She used the personal pronoun your. But check this out. She described an all-powerful, everywhere present at once God when she described him as being, quote, in heaven above and on earth beneath. This is the language of faith. What I'm saying is that Rahab had come to believe, as evidenced by the act of faith that follows. So look at verse 14. So the men answered her, our lives for yours, if none of you tell this business of ours, and it shall be when the Lord has given us the land that we will deal kindly and truly with you. Then she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was on the city wall. She dwelt on the wall. And she said to them, get to the mountain, lest the pursuers meet you. Hide there 3 days until the pursuers have returned. Afterwards you may go your way. So the men said to her, we will be blameless of this oath of yours which you have made us swear, unless when we come into the land you bind this line of scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you bring your father, mother, brothers, and all your father's household to your own home. So it shall be that whoever goes outside the doors of your house into the street, his blood shall be in his own head, and we will be guiltless. And whoever is with you in the house, his blood shall be on our head if a hand is laid on him. And if you tell this business of ours, then we will be free from your oath which you made us swear. And then she said, according to your words, so be it. And she sent them away, and they departed, and she bound the scarlet cord in the window. Now, I'm coming way over here because you and I, we're hanging out together, and we are on the approach to Jericho. We can see the inner wall. We don't care about that right now. We're focused on the outer wall where Rahab lived. So go home, check 3 sources, get 3 different descriptions. Here's one. We're looking at a 15-foot earthen retaining wall, and then on top of that, a 25-foot brick wall. So with your eyes focused on Rahab's window, let's approach the city. Let's walk right up to the wall. Let's look up at her window, and we're looking up, what, like 40 feet, right? Which raises the question. What in the world was Rahab doing with a 40 or 50-foot rope laying around the house? I mean, did everybody in Jericho keep a 50-footer on the coffee table? Did only people living in the wall keep a rope on a hook by the window? I don't know, but I'm guessing these were not the first men to make a hasty escape from Rahab's place. Just throwing that little observation out there. Now, actually, all of this raises a better question than the rope question, as entertaining as that is to me. Like, why didn't she just go with them? She could have led them to a cave in the hill country of Judah. And then when it was safe, she could have followed them to Acacia Grove. What if they didn't come back? Or what if they came back but didn't keep the deal? Or what if before they could come back and keep the deal, she had been found out? They would have killed her for sure if they knew what she was up to. There's only one reason. Her family. And that reason seems really obvious, except it's not. Not when you go back and consider that, as best we can tell, they wanted nothing to do with her or she with them. Could Rahab live heroically? Not unless she believed. Not unless she believed in God. And we see her coming to faith in verse 11. Not unless she believed in herself, by which I mean the woman that God was making her. And not unless she believed in the future, her future, by which I mean the future that God was forming for her, but not for her alone. And this is the amazing thing, because when you think about Rahab, well, she had so many reasons not to care about anyone's future but her own. She'd been overlooked by the eligible bachelors of Jericho. She'd been used by immoral men from far and wide. She'd apparently been abandoned by her own family. Who would blame her for wanting to get out and never look back? It's what I would have done. Might be what you would have done too. But the idea here is to believe God for a bigger future that makes us and others bigger. As Christians, don't we love talking about the future? I mean, we love talking about vision and vision casting, and we love describing our God-given dream. Here's the thing. If your God-given dream is only big enough for you, That's not God's dream for you. God's dream for you will always be so big that there will be room in it for you and for others. And Rahab is the most amazing case in point. You know that by the time we get to chapter 6 and the battle takes place, that she and her family were spared. And then just 2 verses later, we find out that when the book of Joshua was written, that Rahab was alive and well and living as a part of their community. How cool is that? Not half as cool as this. Because you get to the end of the Old Testament, and then you turn through those blank pages between the Testaments. And then you turn to the first book of the New Testament, and to the first chapter of the first book, and to the first verses of the first chapter, and there you find a tree. But not just any tree, a family tree. And not even just any family tree, it's Jesus' family tree. I have to describe it for you. It has these huge branches that go off in every direction, and on each branch is carved the name of a woman or a man who lived heroically. And on one branch for everyone to see, everyone in this auditorium, everyone watching the live stream, for those listening live on radio to picture in their minds, on one branch, look at it, R-A-H-A-B, Rahab. You know what that means, right? It means that not only had she become part of their community, but she'd fallen in love and gotten married. It means that she had kids who had kids who had kids, until finally one of her descendants was Jesus, God in the flesh, the Savior of the world, who many rightly see in the color cord she was told to tie in her window, that scarlet colored cord suggesting the blood that Jesus would one day shed on the cross to make all of this cool stuff that we're talking about possible. Oh my goodness. Wow. Right? I mean, clearly Rahab had an unusual ability to believe God for a bigger, better future, but do you think that even Rahab could have imagined this? From prostitute to mother. How long? How long had Rahab worn a label that said prostitute? And God comes along and takes hold of the corner of that label, and listen, rip! And in its place, he puts a new label that says mother. You heard a little bit of Miranda's story, not so much yet about mine. I'll just quickly say in a nutshell that around the same time frame, 9 years ago, while pastoring Calvary Chapel in Austin, Calvary Austin we called it, just like you call this Calvary Aurora, my wife left me and our then 17-year-old daughter. It was just me and Lauren for her senior year until she graduated, and I sent her off to Bible college. And like Miranda, I lost everything. I lost my marriage. I lost my ministry. I lost all of my material things. I remember the day I returned my car. I remember the day I came home and found the foreclosure notice on the door of my house. And we both know what it's like to live a labeled life, to see the way that people look at you, to see the way they whisper to each other about you, to see them sneak cell phone pics of you to send to who knows who, to read the things that they're bold enough to send from behind a keyboard in the way of a text or an email or a message on social media. We know what it's like to live a labeled life. We know what it's like to have people in your life who won't ever let you forget. And God comes along and he takes hold of the corner of Miranda's divorced label. And listen, rip! And in its place, he puts a new label that says, wife, my wife. And he takes hold of the corner of my label, that divorce label, and listen, rip! And in its place, he puts a new label that says husband. What label do you need to see and hear God tearing from you this morning? Failure, rip. Loser, rip. Sinner, rip. And what label do you need to see God putting in its place? You know, in just a moment, I'm going to pray. Miranda's going to come back out. We're going to lead you guys in one last worship song. During the song, while we're doing the song, we're going to have people at the front to pray for you. I think there are people here who probably could really use a word of prayer right now. Maybe prayer that where you walked in with despair, you can walk out with hope. For others, maybe wanting to make that first time commitment to Christ, to receive Him as your forgiver and your leader. But before I even transition with a quick word of prayer, can I suggest what you guys might do when you get home this afternoon? Isn't that thoughtful of me to plan the rest of your day for you? See how I am? I want to suggest that when you get home today, you find a tattered old bath towel and a safety pin. And you wrap that towel around your shoulders and you pin it up tight, and you begin to live heroically as you let go of past guilt and hurt. As you face your fears, feeling them fully but refusing to be controlled by them. And as you believe God for a bigger, better future, for you, for sure for you, but for the people around you too.
And now it's time to fill out a connection card.
You should see a link in the chat feed, but you can always go to our website, solachurch.life, and click Contact. This is your way of letting us know that you attended online. And I just want to remind you that part of our digital church is virtual small groups during the week. And it's in the virtual small groups that we're building community and where there's an emphasis on application of the weekend message. So it's a big, big part of, how people engage with us online and grow spiritually as they participate. I mention it because on that connection card, you can indicate your desire to be a part of one of those groups. Different times for people in different time zones. There's a place for you. And also you can check if you want more information about joining the launch team.
And don't forget to RSVP for the startup party tomorrow, Monday, September 27th at 7 p.m. Go to solachurch.life, click Attend a Startup Party. And we hope that you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Are you looking for a church on the west side? A place where anyone can believe and everyone belongs? Safe space, inclusive space, life-giving space. I'm Alan, this is my wife Miranda, and we're starting a brand new church in Santa Monica, California on January 23rd, 2022. We're kicking it all off with what we call startup parties.
Our next event is on Monday, September 27th from 7 to 8 p.m. We'll be at the Alt Studio at 2022 Broadway. We are going to have dessert and a free t-shirt for you, and we're going to share the heart and vision of what Sola Church is all about. We'd love for you to come, meet some new people, and hear all about Sola Church in Santa Monica. And yes, children are always welcome.
For information or RSVP, go to solachurch.life, and there you also have the option of scheduling a coffee meetup or a Zoom call with us if you have questions. We hope to see you September 27th at the Alt Studio.